So, what's up, YouTube? Here we go. We last left off on the story. And it was to that 5-year-old range. And I kind of left off there with multiple reasons. One, it was kind of the establishment or the starting of remembering, and there were only big key moments between that 3 to 5 range that were memorable, and I don't mean that everything else wasn't memorable, but I'm a grown man now trying to recall things that happened when I was 3 to 5. And some of it comes to me from stories, from my family. Some of it comes from just my own recollections. However, we're going to push past that 5-year-old range. At 5, when I was learning to ride my bicycle, was the first time that I had a near-death experience. And I'm only putting it in quotes because I was struck by a drunk driver, and I was riding a bicycle, or I contacted him. However, I got hit. And then it didn't make sense to me. Ambulance, fire crew, they got called, and I woke up to the sirens going off, and the EMT that was holding on to me, and at the time I'm a 5-year-old little boy, so I was little. The EMT that was holding on to me looked just like a 20-year-old version of my wife. And at the time I didn't correlate those things, and I talked to Brooke about it, and I keep pointing over here like she's sitting here driving, but I'm waiting on her. She's in the dentist. But we were talking about it earlier this morning, the fact that was probably the first time. Later on in my life, and I'll get into them, other near-death experiences or moments that I probably shouldn't have, but I did somehow wake up from. Anyways, so at 5 I had that experience, and I'm only bringing it up because it was fresh, and Brooke and I talked about it earlier today. But that 5 to 8 year range was kind of spotty and shoddy. And what I mean is my mother was getting her shit together-ish. We had moved a few times. We lived in an apartment complex. The 5 to 8 range is when I really started BMXing. I got good enough that later on in life, one of my aunts told me she had saved the news article, the ratings and the rankings of the ABA at the time, and I was number 2 in the state. Never knew it until then, but it explained a lot to me, because even as a young boy, I knew that the boys in Boise area were a lot more competitive or higher end BMXers, and I was just a poor trailer trash type, just doing the thing, and I was just pretty fucking good at it. Anyways, the number 1 kid was from Boise, and he never would come down and race me, and it made sense, later on when I'm an adult and getting told these things. But that probably is one of the biggest things that happened for me in that 5 to 8 range. The moving around started probably my issues with instability and issues with, really setting my roots. And I say that from the aspect that I'm kind of a wanderer. And I say it from that aspect because if I say something like gypsy I've kind of got a gypsy soul. Some take that as bad or whatever. I ain't saying it for a bad reason. I've always been able to pack up my shit and go. And I think that's when that kind of stuff started. Some other things that I've learned later on in life, now that I'm adult, my separation anxieties and things of that nature come from my childhood. Those age ranges, that 3 to 8, and me kind of taking care of my siblings. Because my mom at the time, she was a mental health, probably basket case. And my mom and I have talked. There's no hard feelings. I've told her I forgive her, because as I look and grow myself, I realize things like, you should wait to have kids until you heal from your trauma. Because if you don't, you raise your kids in your trauma. And, I've talked to Mom about that and told her, hey, I forgive you. Because we don't know. Nobody hands us a this is life book when you graduate high school. You just got to go figure it out. Unless you have parents that are stable and been there, done that, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't me. So there's that. But I think that is where those issues come from. Those, separation anxieties and the kind of a gypsy soulish, abilities, I guess. And I look at them as abilities for the main reason that, like, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can just pack up their stuff and go and be gone and never come back. Possibly. Maybe you do come back. Not very many people can do those kind of things. So, 5 to 8 wasn't very eventful. However, it was. We moved. And at 8 is when I moved away. From here. From where me and Brooke have been since we reunited. We moved away from here. And it was the first big move in my life. And that will probably be a video in and of itself, because I still remember the trip. But some things happened in that 5 to 8 range that we ain't covered yet. Brooke and I's first kiss. That's coming up next video. Brooke and I's first kiss. We were young. And it gets me all emotional. Our 6-year-old looked at me the other day, and I was choked up about something, and she looked at me and she goes, Blue, are you emotional right now? Anyways, love you guys. If you like the content, want to hear more, see more, just hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you. Love your faces. Latest.